Dear faculty, family and friends, dear fellow graduates. Welcome to what is an extraordinary day of celebrations that marks an end to our time at King's. I see this time as a defining chapter in the story of our lives, a story that we have now started to write with more or less ownership of the storyline, because our King's chapter was in no way textbook. The COVID-19 pandemic threw us a few plot twists along the way. But while we might want to skip a few pages, mainly the ones where words such as lockdown and lateral flow test were used in every other sentence, our time at King's has certainly been memorable. Memorable stories don't come out of nowhere. There are a lot of hard work for the writer, and our King's chapter involved a lot of important characters. The academic staff who got us through teaching and exams under the toughest of circumstances, not just for us, but for them as well. The professional service colleagues, all of whom worked tirelessly to support us through our studies. The King's staff, who served us coffee in the cafes, held the door to the bike park, and made sure we always just walked straight through when exiting Bush House. Our friends, both from King's, other London universities, and from home, who were always ready for a party, a pint, a library session, and the occasional all-nighter, both the ones that were study-related and those that weren't. Our King's chapter wouldn't have been the same without you. And finally, our families and loved ones, who have supported us through lockdowns and opened their doors when some of us had to move home again, and who were probably happy to see us move back to London again. To all of you, thank you for making our King's chapter memorable. Today, we start to write a new chapter with our experience at King's as a reference point. When I wrote this speech, I thought, if I could co-author parts of your story, what would be my contribution? And what would be my cut of profits once your stories become a bestseller? And after some soul-searching, I concluded my contributions would be as follows. Firstly, I would urge you to change the narrative if the old one no longer fits. Now that we're graduating, we need to reflect on whether what we've learned fits the world of tomorrow and the stories we want to write. Being a business student, I've read my fair share of economic theory through the years, and I'm sorry to say that some of these theories simply don't fit a world where we are finally, seriously focused on limiting climate change. No matter what we studied, I think climate change will be the one thing all of us, in some way, shape, or form, will be working with. We have to create new narratives where a positive outcome isn't just measured in money, but in whether a heat wave is just a heat wave and not a terrifying new normal. Changing narratives is no easy task, but luckily we're King's graduates, and we're going to kick some serious climate change butt in the years to come. Secondly, I want to remind you that as you're writing your story, you will always have a choice in how you respond and act. Life will, no matter what, put us in challenging situations where we might feel worthless, jealous, selfish, corrupt, or greedy. And this isn't me pointing fingers, because no person on earth, including myself, is exempt from these feelings. They're a part of being human. However, As we acknowledge these feelings and temptations, we will always have the choice to act differently. For example, choosing generosity over greed or inclusivity over selfishness. I hope that as we write the story of our lives, we'll remember that these feelings are choices and that ultimately we're the ones holding the pen. With these two contributions, and if we can reach an income share agreement on that major publishing deal, I'm certain that we will write the next defining chapter in our lives, starting today. In our next chapter, I hope we will be driven, not by greed or jealousy, but by values, a mission to make our world a more just, equal, forgiving, and compassionate place. I hope we will work, not just for ourselves, but for the people with a less powerful voice than our own. Work to be more inclusive and accepting. Work for a sustainable world and climate. And lastly, I hope we stay true to ourselves, that we follow our dreams, whatever they may be. I hope we'll take care of our health and loved ones. And I hope we'll do what makes us happy, so that when we reach the end of our story, we can look back on today and say, wow, it all started at King's. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you.